Running with the new show concept that had been conceived with Jules Fisher and David Krebs, Steve Lieber was now faced with a near impossible task: finding a group of 4 men who could convincingly play the members of one of the biggest bands in history. Looking around today, Beatles tribute bands are commonplace, but back in the 70s, it was a brand new concept that many people felt was sacrilegious in a sense. The Beatles had only broken up a few years ago, and were still in their 30s performing their own solo shows. Anyone who tried to recreate them seemed to be ripping off their success. A small tribute band had popped up here and there, namely a little band in Laguna Beach, California named Rain. But other than that, it had never been seen on a large platform. Regardless, and before even securing the rights, Lieber sent musical directors Andrew Dorfman and Jack Carone to search the entire country for his new Fab Four, spending an incredible $250,000 in the process. The auditions? Well, they were interesting, to say the least. The producers weren't concerned with the look-alike qualities of the cast, but rather focused on natural charisma and overall musical talent. The auditions would bring in countless hopefuls, many without any musical training, but who were attracted to the idea of potentially being a Beatle for a day. In the end, it would prove to be an ad in a small New York newspaper and a phone call that would bring 4 unsuspecting people together.
It's coffee talk with ADIKA. Nothing rhymes with that but chicken tikka. We name drop here with Stephen, Mike, and whoever.
It was a show that I was into when I was a little boy. It was Beatlemania, you know. It was huge. And think about it. The Beatles, when this show was out, they were only in their 30s. The Beatles, they're probably in their 30s. They just broke up, so it's almost taboo kind of to want to touch on the Beatles because they were still roaming around. Look at this photograph right here. There's Mitch over here with Andy Warhol, Michael Jackson, Steven Tyler, and that on the other is Joe.
That's Joe on the left. Joe Lennon.
With the Lennon glasses. Like he really, do you think Lennon ever bumped him on the streets? Hey man, take the glasses. You want to be me, but don't be me all the time. Yeah, come on. But look at Andy, huh? Look at that.
Enough with the glasses.
And look over here.
What a great photo.
Yeah, look at Mitch. Oh, such a great photo. And how about this one over here? If my screen works. Look at Mitch and McCartney right there. Oh, come on.
Wow.
Come on. The internet gods are messing me up. I'm sorry. I'm having one of those days. Anyway.
That was Mitch from 65 and McCartney from 74, though. That wasn't exactly.
Doesn't matter.
A matchup.
You know, look, it's a good. You know who you look like, Corey? You look like a
Kermit the Frog,
like a warped version of Davy Jones.
I love Davy Jones. I met him.
I met him in the Oyster House in North Hollywood. There was a place. Cool. Okay. Anyway, let me get this out of here because I think I'm messing up.
Did you get a picture with him?
He probably did. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring him up. Where is he over here? There he is yesterday, and then we got him today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Here it is.
Weissman. Mitch,
yes,
how
sir.
are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you? I'm a little sleepy, but I'm good.
What's up, Mitch?
I'm glad you woke up for us.
Yeah.
Oy vey will talk over us. You know.
That's fine.
Mitch, you got the Corona hair going. I love it.
I know. It's gone natural. I'm not doing colors anymore. It's so funny. I almost sent the picture of the two of us from a couple of years ago, and it's like totally different. I'm like Grizzly Adams now. It's insane.
at least you got your hair, Mitch. You know.
That's true. I've got the hair. Yeah.
You got the hair, Mitch. So, Mitch, man, this right here, this photograph with you, Andy, Tyler, Michael Jackson. That picture, I want to know everything about.
Okay, you see the hand on the left-hand side. I think we cropped out Leslie, but Leslie was in that photo, and then Justin's nose was in that photo as well. This was the opening night party from Beatlemania. We didn't have the official opening night, it's true. So we had we had an opening night of sorts at the after party of Studio 54. This is us walking in the door at Studio 54. There's shots. Justin may have one of us without these other guys.
Yeah.
Steven and I were managed. We were all managed by. I was managed by Lieber Krebs. The show was produced by Lieber Krebs, which was Aerosmith's management. So Steven and I were friends before that shot. He just came over. They pulled people in to take the picture. Andy Warhol was always at Studio 54. He hadn't even been invited to this event, but I had met him before. Very funny story on how we first met. But he saw me and he said, Mitch, what's happening? I said, the show opened, Andy. He says, really? Can I get in the picture? And I went, yeah, just get in the picture. Pulled him into the picture. When so he posed for the picture with us. And then this kid comes over, sticks his hand in and says to me, hi, I'm Michael. Happy birthday. And I'm going like, I know who you are. And how does this kid know my birthday? It's my birthday. And that's the apocryphal thing was that I think we said this show opened on May 31st, 1977. Actually, Justin has the right date on it. It was a few days later in June. But Andy had been going, and he and Michael actually were together there for that night because Susan Blonde, who was a publicist at CBS or Sony, well, CBS then, had decided to send them around New York on a series of events. They went out together to events. There's pictures of them with Truman Capote, with Ted Nugent, with all these rock and rollers. They're all out online. So Susan had them going out as a couple to make parties and stuff like that and go around New York. But the funny thing is that they were there for that opening and he came in. My father's was a lawyer. One of the lawyers in his office said that his brother worked with the Jacksons and would he like to have Michael come to the party? My father, not knowing who Michael was, said, invite anybody you want. And that's how Michael showed up at the party. He told me that Susan had said to him, we were going to go to this Beatlemania party. She said, I was already invited by the kid's father. So Michael was very, very nice, very shy. There's some pictures elsewhere of the two of us shaking hands. It's very funny. It's shaking hands against a white wall at Studio 54 without any of the sponsorship stuff. Way before the days when you had sponsors behind every picture that was ever taken. So it was a nice night. It was a great night. A lot of rock and rollers, a lot of celebrities. And we were just kids and it was kind of awesome. We also were going to Studio 54 a lot. Me, Joe, who's not here with us today, because it was the place to go. When we rehearsed at SIR, which is right next door, come down the elevator, come out at nighttime. And Steve Rubel would go, hey, you want to come in? So we just went all the time. That's how I met Andy. I went to Carnegie Mellon University for graphic design. I saw Andy Warhol across the room and said, holy shit, it's Andy Warhol. But I never had the balls to go up and say hello to him. So I met this guy, Jeff, who worked for Andy. And every time I'd see Jeff, there was no Andy. Every time I'd say Andy, there's no Jeff. So one night, me, Joe, our girlfriends and spouse at the time, were at my apartment up on 74th Street off Central Park West. The phone rings. It's a lot of disco music, a lot of boom, boom, boom going on. And this voice goes, hi, Mitch. I go, yeah. It's Andy. I'm going, who? Andy who? He goes, Andy Warhol. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, Andy Warhol. How can I help you? And he goes, when are you coming down? I'm going, coming down to where? Coming down to the studio. Well, Andy Warhol, we'll be right there. So thanks a lot for calling by. And we hung up the phone. We're both laughing. Andy Warhol. Yeah, right. Andy Warhol's on the phone. The phone rings 10 seconds later. Same music, same boom, boom, boom. And the voice on the phone is Jeff. He says to me, Mitch, it's Jeff. And I go, what? Are you kidding me? Was that? He said, yep, that was Andy. Put him back on the phone, please. Andy gets on the phone and says, hi, Mitch, it's Andy. You coming down? And I went, we'll be right there. And we hung up the phone. We threw the plates in the sink. We went down the stairs of a 5-story walk-up apartment, like the Keystone Cops, banging into each other all the way down, got in a cab, and that's how I spent the night with Andy Warhol. One of several nights with Andy Warhol. It was a lot of fun.
Wow.
He was there. Yeah.
Wow. Corey and I worked when we worked at Circus. One of Kenny's, Andy Warhol's guys, that kind of his water boy, I guess it was. Like I was like Jerry Rothberg's, male guy running around. Ken Leyland. Was that his last
He was
name?
the last person to see Andy, wasn't he?
Is Andy alive? Wow. Wow.
Yeah, right before Andy passed. Yeah, he worked with Christopher. What was the artist?
Makos.
Makos. Yeah, he worked with.
Wow.
Jerry
Wow.
Rothberg's
Photographer.
big fan. We're gonna bring everybody. There's so many stories to go by. I don't know what
I want to
Justin is.
wait. We have
Yeah.
to get to Mitch meeting John Lennon. Now I found out
Oh,
yesterday. I've
yes.
known
Yeah.
Mitch for 40 years, and he just told me yesterday that he met him on multiple occasions. I only knew about one.
What multiple occasions? So wait, so let's go to the first one. The first time you met Lennon.
Okay. The first one was I lived on 74th Street off Central Park West, and would always go out of my house, make a right turn, go over to Columbus Avenue, go shopping, go to the hardware store. There was a little place up, a famous place, Corey, you might remember it, Ruel's, that was on 75th Street and Central Park West, right across the street. It's right next to where Putumayo was, or that what they used Putumayo in the Seinfeld episode. But it was a 2-story building, glass tables, blue glass tables. Late at night, it was open all night long, and you'd see Mick Jagger in there, all these people in there eating at night. I went there with Buzzy Linhart a few times, or my wife and I just went and ate there. But I go out one morning, it's after a snowstorm in January of 77, I'm pretty sure. I may have the years off now, but I can't remember now. So I'm walking out much like a woman. My hair's kind of like this. I'm wearing my glasses. I don't look very McCartney-esque as far as I'm concerned. Stuff like that. I'm carrying. I'm going to get rods to put up curtains on shelves on my wall. I'm going to the hardware store. I'm coming back with some groceries. I'm walking up from 73rd Street towards my street, 74th Street, and coming down from 75th Street is these 2 fur-coated figures, both with fur hats on, and the third gentleman. And in my mind, as I get to the southern corner of the block, I'm staring at John Lennon and Yoko Ono. And I believe the third person was Sam Havatoy, but I'm not sure. And my brain goes, holy shit, it's John Lennon. And it goes, and I'm carrying all this stuff. I'm like a schlep. It's like when a woman goes out in curlers in the old days, please don't let me see anybody I know. Well, I certainly knew this person, but I get to about the holy shit part in my mind, and this voice booms out, well, good morning, Paul. How are you, Paul? Look, honey, it's Paul. He looks just like him, doesn't he? And she goes, yeah, he does. Because, my 16-year-old saw the show, and he said, Dad, the 3 guys that play the other ones don't look anything like them. But you got to see the guy who plays Paul. He looks just like him. And I'm just going I couldn't even speak. I'm holding my groceries and my wall rods and stuff like that. And he pulls me up out of the street. I had set the street. We're stepping up on the curb. He says, we should use him for the TV thing we're thinking of doing. He says to the other guy. He says, look, and he looks just like Paul. That's when he made the joke to me. He says, you should form a band with 4 chick singers. 4 guys and a chick singer who doesn't look like anyone, and call it Wings and Tour the World. And that's when I went, I think it's been done. He said, no, you should do that. He says, how do you do so many shows a week? How do you do that stuff? He said, we should use him for that thing. And very politely, they just said, well, let's think about that. And I'm standing, I live down the block. And he says to me, don't worry, I'll know how to find you. And I stood there on the street corner carrying this stuff in my arms. And they start to disappear down Columbus Avenue. And it turns into a Jerry Lewis moment where I am standing on the street. There's no one out at all. And all of a sudden, the whole world has stopped. There's not a single person out there. It's a big. I'm going, did anybody, did this? What? So I'm running down the block now to my apartment. And I get upstairs, the 5-story walk up. My wife at the time is in that apartment. She says to me, what? And I'm like, now I'm Luke Ocello. I had to wait for 30 seconds for me to get breath back. John Lennon. So I told her the story, which I immediately called Joe Pecorino, who lived on 75th Street, and told him the story. And that's the first time I met them.
Wow.
The next time was months later in the summertime. My preferred route to go home from the theater, the Winter Garden Theater, was to take the bus up Central Park West, get out 72nd Street, pass in front of the Dakota, walk down to Columbus Avenue, go to the Pioneer Supermarket off between 73rd and 74th, buy the groceries, go back over to my house, and come back home. So now I'm on one of those walks coming back, and I get off the bus, and I'm walking in front of Dakota, and there is John signing autographs for kids on the block, with Yoko standing off to the side, being totally ignored. Mm-hmm. And being the good Jewish kid and being brought up when you're in the room with somebody, say hello to everyone. And that's why I always did that whenever I talk to anyone. It doesn't matter who's in the room or anybody's important or not. They're all important if you're talking to people. And Yoko is off to the side. He can't see me, so I waved to her. You know, we'd met. I'm waving. I'm only shaking from the waist down this time. And then she motions to me, hold on a second. And she tugs on John's arm, and she points at me, and he breaks off his conversation with the people, and he walks over to me, and we start walking up towards Columbus Avenue a little bit. Got to about the Olcott Hotel, the next big building after the Dakota. And he says to me, so how are you? You're still doing the show? I said, yeah. He says, how are you surviving it? I said, well, I'm doing it. And she walked along with us a little bit. We had a little bit of a conversation there, which right now, I couldn't even tell you while I'm telling the story what we talked about. It was just a little bit of still doing the show. And I was coming home from the theater at the time. I wasn't performing that afternoon. We used to come in and check in and make sure the other cast was fine, and then we can go home. So that was the second time I met him. And but the last time and the time that most people tell me I'm an idiot for, but I still don't think I was. They were getting friendlier. When he was recording Double Fantasy, Lee DiCarlo, the studio engineer, would send him messages from me because we'd meet at the nightclubs or restaurants. And he would say, and I was also friends with Jack Douglas because he did Aerosmith and it was part of the Lieber Krebs family. But I would send messages to him to say hello to him. And Lee said, John genuinely says, tell him I said hi. And gee, Lee, you certainly know an awful lot of people. But he was always very, very nice that way, sending messages. And the last time I met him, I'd been home from doing the show in 1980 on the road. I'd gone to the theater to visit the guys, came home on the same bus route, came past the Dakota, there, and I'm walking home. There's nobody in front. I went past Dakota, I'm about the Olcott Hotel, and coming towards me is John and Yoko. And I'm going, hey, kids, how you doing? Now I'm goofing on them. He says, I just got a letter from my lawyers today. We're suing you. And I feigned like, what are you suing me for? And Yoko ran up and said to me, he says, no, it's just the lawyers. It's just the lawyers. So we're sitting there, we're standing on the street. We start to walk back towards the Dakota. John's in the middle. Yoko's on one side, I'm on the other. We start talking about different things. Like I had just listened to Double Fantasy the night before. I had just read the Playboy article the night before. I told John I read the Playboy article. He stopped us both, like, parents in the car, hands on your chest, stops us both and says, George is really going to kill me. I said, like, what do you mean? He says, well, I talked about him like being like the Apple Scruffs in that interview, or like the kids that used to hang out in front of the studio, Abbey Road back then. It was a pretty brutal, the chef article was a pretty brutally honest interview. Which apparently he was always like that. He said, I was an asshole on Tuesday. I'll deal with it on Wednesday. He was great with walking there. And I said, it's funny. I remember the comments you made about the B-52s and Yoko being ahead of her time. And he says, yeah, she was always ahead of her time with all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He's making fun of her. She's laughing. I'm laughing. We're walking back towards the guard tower. We sit down on the stoop and, he says to me, so you're still doing the show? Are you still doing, how do you do 8 shows a week? I said, well, we have monitors. And so he says to me, I can really, really feel for you. He said, I don't know how you do 8 shows a week. And he said, but I just can't believe that you can do the performances the way you do. I said, well, let's be honest, the scale's a little bit different. I mean, you were the Beatles. We're these guys on a stage. He says, no. He says, it's just, I can really feel for you because it's just the same, no matter what scale you're on. Once you're a Beatle, it's just as tough to get out. Because I had mentioned I was trying to leave the show. And 2 weeks later, I was in my apartment and the event occurred. I remember the next morning, after consoling Joe and my wife at the time being up all night long, I went out to get the papers, standing in front of the Dakota. And Meredith Vieira, the local CBS reporter, who we all know from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and everything else she's done journalism-wise way before that. She asked if she could interview me. I was standing there with the New York Times in my arms, and she did. And I told her about the last meeting. I said I didn't really want to put any words in his mouth. But the last thing he did say to me was, going through Beatles is just as tough to get out. She used that line. They cut to her in later on in the studio, which said, for former Beatle John Lennon, he's finally out. That piece got her to the national news. And she thanked me for it years later. So,
wow.
He was a very nice guy. But what I said yesterday, coffee is true. Corey is true. At one point, when we're talking on the soup, after all that stuff about leaving and doing something else, and they invited me up for tea, and I figured this was going really well. Shook head to toe the first time, waist down the second time, goofing around with them on the third time. I got plenty of time here, and I went, "That's okay. We'll do it next time. I've got things to do." And sure enough, that's what happened. And I didn't go up there. I'm on the air, honey. My wife is coming in.
You bring your wife. She could say hi to
breakfast.
us. Let your wife, if she wants to say hi.
Back out.
Okay, my wife will come in. My 4-year-old. That's a crazy story. So you guys sat, and I'm trying to recreate this. I mean, Mitch, it's from Corey and I, and I know everybody out there. Yeah. When you said the stoop, you sat like he.
Well,
sat
when the guard tower is to the right of the entrance to the place. On the left hand side, there's actually the concrete in the building goes like this on both sides.
Yes.
So on the other side is the concrete up about 2 feet, and you could sit on it. You could sit on it and talk. And we did. We sat down. We were talking. So the amazing thing is, and I talked about this with Paul Goresh. Paul Goresh is the photographer who took all those photos of John and Yoko over the years. Very nice guy. He passed away a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But he took pictures. He was there that day. Has the picture of him signing the autograph for David Chapman. I'll never forget that Chapman had a list of people he was going to go get when he came to New York, and one of them was Paul McCartney. And it made sense to me later on when I saw the photo of John signing the autograph. Earlier in the day, since it was in my usual walk to the bus stop and stuff like that, there was this guy outside the Dakota staring at me very intensely with glasses and dark hair. As I walked by, he would not take his eyes off me, and I just didn't think about it at the time. And it was Mark David Chapman. And then I saw that McCartney was on his list. I'm going, holy crap! Thank God I wasn't there. Paul said he was there and watched that whole thing occur. Very, very eerie. Very eerie.
Paul Goresh.
Yeah.
Paul Goresh.
Yeah. That's a very eerie story. So because I was going to say 2 weeks before he was cruising around Chapman's, roaming around.
Yeah,
I believe.
One of the weirdest things, they say that Lennon's the last her words he heard was when Goresh said Mr. Lennon, and then he emptied his revolver into him. Very weird times at night because people were very polite. I'm walking to my apartment on 74th Street, and a voice would boom out, Mr. Weissman, and I'd go I'd freeze. Like, is this going to be my moment? No, it's just people asking for autographs and things like that. But it's like, wow, that's like, it's amazing how a phrase can all of a sudden mean something different to you. When what's the big deal? Somebody calling out your name. But that's the way he went, and that's for a while it used to spook me when somebody would just call out my name from behind. Do I turn around or do I start running like crazy? So.
It's scary. Did you ever afterwards bump into Yoko or anything like that?
It's funny. There was a pharmacy. If you remember this, the Upper West Side, 72nd Street, Saeed Saver ran a pharmacy called the West Side Pharmacy. Mm-hmm. He was from Egypt. He was my pharmacist. Mm-hmm. He was, he had opened the pharmacy, and I used to get my medications there from him for my throat stuff and things like that. And he's just a neighborhood pharmacist. My wife had done a headshot of me. Mm-hmm. And he put it up on the wall. It was the first headshot up on his wall above the cash register and stuff. The wall since filled with everybody's celebrity under the sun. But it was me on one side of the clock and Mary Tyler Moore on the other side of the clock. And everybody's in the neighborhood and all the other celebrity things. And John and Yoko and Sean eventually had their pictures up, not in the prime location, but on the wall. He started to put the other ones down there. And every time I wouldn't see her there, but she would tell him I said hello when you see him. And I get in his farm, he says, Yoko says hi. So it was great. I'll never forget John Lovitz in the 90s at the China Club. He used to live in the neighborhood. He yelled at me at the China Club, how did you get your placement up there on the wall next to Mary Tyler Moore? Who are you to have a photo up on that wall? It was a neighborhood pharmacy, and he was my friend. And he put my photo, he was the first photo he put up on the wall. And I wasn't famous then. This was like, I'm honored. I think the photo's still there. I don't even know. He's retired and went back to Egypt, and the family is running the place now. He was a great guy.
What a time it was, New York City. Now, you know what? Let's bring the next cast. The man who played George. Corey, I'll let you introduce him. Corey, because you're the big Beatle fanatic here, bigger than me. Introduce Les to this. Come on, do something.
Oh my God.
Oh God! And this is why Mitch, he got fired from Circus Magazine. Unbelievable.
His name just went out of my head.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
oh my God! This is what you do.
I'm not good on the spot.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sandy D. Sparks, Mitch, do you have a book? She wants to know. Thank you for that, Sandy. Mitch, do you have a book?
No, I don't. I've been asked to write one for a lot of years, and Corey knows a friend of mine, Ender Harris, had been asking me if he wrote some chapters for me. It wasn't necessarily in my voice. I have time to write a book now, except I don't because I'm working like crazy in the produce department of a supermarket. Even though I'm getting my Social Security, I keep myself busy and work and stuff like that. My poor lovely wife came in to ask me to make her breakfast like I've been doing every morning. She's gonna have to wait till we're done.
Yeah, no, she's gonna have to wait.
Yeah,
Here's a great photograph of you guys right here. And look at Les right there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's add
Les Fradkin.
Les Fradkin. Thank you, Les. You got it, Les. Welcome.
You got it.
Sorry, Les.
I'll bounce
morning,
him
guys.
out. Good morning, Les. How you doing,
Just wonderful.
Les?
Oh, there he is.
Les, when was the last time you and Mitch connected? Besides yesterday on this, but
Actually, fairly recently in terms of
When
how many
he's-
years we've known each other.
2016,
you came to visit
I
the
think
store.
it was. I was in California to visit my mom at the time, and I went over to Sam Ash and visited Mitch the same day.
yeah,
That's why I was wearing the
Come on
pink
in.
shirt, because that was my mom's favorite color.
Oh, really? Oh, that's wonderful. So, Les,
Yeah,
did
so
you-
there's a great photo of us there. I posted it up on Facebook when we took it then. It was great to see Les. It was great working at Sam Ash was great because people would come and visit. People would show up with programs from like 40 years ago. Can you sign this now? I go, sure, why not? So
this-
I didn't need to ask for his autograph. I already had it.
no, I probably asked for your autograph at the time. I think we
You might
exchanged
have.
phone numbers and private email addresses. That's what we did then.
Yes.
That's
There you
great.
go.
This is great. I'm waiting for Justin, and I hope he got the link. Everybody got the link. You guys are on the same chain, so I don't know where Justin could be having. It's always Ringo. He's like it's like Hard Day's Night. I think Justin is walking around.
It's
He might
very
be
late, but it'll be very clean.
He might be
He's
hanging
out
with a very
parading.
clean man. He might be
He's
hanging
out
with Mitch's,
parading. So
Mitch's grandfather, a very clean man. Very clean. But Les, everybody out there, he played fabulous George Harrison. As you all know, Mitch played Paul McCartney. Les, did you guys you guys ever try to do a real band together in between doing the Beatlemania thing?
There was talk about it. We used to jam at things at sound check and try a few
we actually
songs.
did those recordings, which were very cool. Our semi-disco version of the Gone with the Wind theme, dun, 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 which
We
was
did do-
unbelievable.
Hang on. We did
Yeah.
do a record
Go.
called Jeans On for Laurie Records, where all four of us appeared on both sides. And it was a top 60 hit. And my then girlfriend, Diana Haig, and I co-produced it. And it was, Joey sang it, and Mitch played piano. I played bass, and Justin drummed. And it was pretty good.
It was great. David Dundas had this minor hit with the song, and then we did a cover version, which Les engineered and produced and stuff. It was great. We played it. It's very funny. I always remember that lick, and I had such trouble playing it on the piano. It was the easiest lick in the world. And then somewhere in the fade, Les, you can hear the mistake where I missed one of those riffs, but we kept it in there anyway. So, and that record sounded absolutely great. It was a Laurie Records production. It was really, really good. But also, remember we went to CBS and we recorded that stupid Tara's theme with me doing the Ferranti and Teicher piano, dum 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 dum, all this disco shit. It was hysterical. So unless
You guys also did Love
unless you're
American
playing all
stuff.
that what's his name? I can't remember his name. Nile Rodgers guitar style stuff. It was really great.
You guys did Love American Style too, didn't you?
Really?
That was later on. That was without Les. That was with David Leon and Jimmy Poe. We did the Love American Style theme '93, I think, or so for the Carl Reiner television show with what's her name? Melanie. I don't remember what it was now. That not that was the week that was. I can't remember I totally forgot the name of the program, but it was a funny clip bit. We did that show.
Here's from Pamela. Pamela, thank you very much. Can the guys talk? Can you guys talk like your counterparts for us? I have the Beatlemania LP. Les, can you do your best? How about I'll let Les go first.
She paid $5.
She paid $5.
I charge extra for this. Well, I play lead guitar and sing a couple of songs that people don't think I sing on.
A couple of bits. That's right.
That's fabulous.
Well, I try to keep the guys interested in keeping the group together, but it's very, very difficult. There's some tension between us all, but it's always good to see them when they come in, and this is good to see Les on the phone. So, and you guys as well.
That's great. That's great, man. That's great. It's almost we have right now the anthology, except Justin is like, he could be in, where is Justin?
He's hiding.
The Ringo is hiding. The man, he's like
Ringo was the first one to quit the Beatles, and I guess he's done it again now. So I'm not sure.
I mean, the truth is, I mean, he was okay in the rehearsals with you guys. Was there anything like the guy of you guys taking the lead? Like Les, let's be honest. Was he being a little like a McCartney in there? Hey, if you're gonna play it this, and did you ever go to him? I'll play it any way you want me to play it, or I won't play at all.
He was still learning the bits. He was still learning.
Yeah, we were learning the parts. It's funny. Les was not that much older, but I would call him the elder statesman. He was the gentleman who had more history in the music business and was the most professional out of all of us in terms of his career and things. And I'll let him talk about it. By the way. Yeah, I mean, it's that too, but also I had totally forgotten about the Gary Glitter thing. For the life of me, I totally forgot. You never even talked about it that much.
Steve,
you guys are sports fans. Rock and Roll Part 2. That's Les playing.
Really?
That's him. Yeah.
Well, tell me about that, Les.
There was a lot of sessions I did in London. Yeah. I started out with my family, just traveling on vacation, and I said to them, I want to go over to Apple Records, and so I'll see you later. And I went over there, and I was really looking just to cop some albums. Because I was a DJ at college and I wanted the albums, and I happened to run into Derek Taylor in the foyer. And he looks at me and he says, "So who are you?" And I tell him who I am, and he says, "Do you play anything?" And I said, "Yeah, I play guitar and keyboards." And he says, "We have a session tonight. Do you fancy having a go?" And I said, "Okay." Doing an Al Cooper, yeah, I can do whatever you want me to do. And he showed me the Mellotron that was in the studio down there, and I said, "Do you mind if I practice this?" I mean, I figured I could play it because it looked like a big organ. And I ended up playing on the Golden Slumbers Carry That Weight trash single, which ended up is how I met John Lennon for the first time, because the next day they showed this recording to Paul and John, and Paul was furious because he had instructed them to do a demo and not add strings to it, which I had been conscripted to do. And John said, "That sounds like a good imitation of us. It's going out." And he then considered me an ally from that point on. So that was my first introduction to them, followed by them arguing about Maxwell's Silver Hammer the next day, which was a pretty furious argument. And John was screaming at Paul, saying, "Why don't you have Mary Hopkins sing this? She does junk like that." So rumors of them getting into fights were evidently accurate.
Yeah.
Wow. Corey,
I didn't know
you didn't know it? See what I did for you? Not only I make you a YouTube sensation, you ride my coattails, I get the stories. Corey, go get him. Go dig deep now with him on this. Don't let it go.
This is great because there's a lot of stuff that we never even touched on. I think Les just wasn't even telling us much about that stuff. I mean, he had done stuff before that as well. He had done a lot of different things. It was funny. Didn't you also work with what's his name who wrote Twist and Shout? I forgot his name.
Well, I knew Bert because he was in the Brill Building area, so he used to see around doing various things. I mean, I worked with Michael Brown, the guys in the left bank, and I produced some sessions for them right before the show. But actually, what I was doing right before I auditioned was producing a made-for-TV LP called the Smash Songs of the 60s, which was the group called the Poppies doing the Beatles. So in
That's right. Yeah,
actual
I remember
fact,
that. I forgot.
I
That.
was sitting there learning all the parts that I had to know. So when I walked in and saw Ken Laguna, I kind of was on top of what I had to know at the time.
Yeah, that was great.
Wow, wow. Well, I think I just hung up on Justin. I'm sorry. I think that could be Justin
Oh,
calling
we'll
me
get him
over.
back.
But
Happens to him a
hold
lot.
on, you guys. Hey, James, thank you very much. Corey, let me get Justin and take the interview over from me. Let me try to help him out here. Hold on, okay, Corey, take over.
All right. Les,
Yes.
your name flew out of my head. I'm so sorry. Okay, so 69, you were in Abbey Road Studios with
No, I
Gary
was
Glitter.
at Apple Studios. I worked at Abbey Road Studios with Mickey Most on certain records, and at Pi and Delano Lee, all sorts of different places in England and various places in New York and LA. Once
So
they
the Apple Studios, was that the one in the basement?
yes,
Oh, awesome.
the one you see
Wow.
in the Let It Be movie.
Yeah.
So you hear an actual argument between John and Paul about Maxwell.
I'm gonna kill Justin because I'm missing all this good stuff. I have to watch the repeats. This is him now. All right, go ahead. Take over. I'm sorry.
The argument was in their. They had offices in Apple at Savile Row. Each one has
Upstairs.
And you could, at the rate they were yelling, you could hear them yelling quite a lot at each other. John was not into the sort of bubblegum pop that Paul wanted him to do. He wanted to do the rock and roll that he wanted to do. And I think at the time there was a lot of discussion. I had a song for Mary Hopkin I wrote called Sometimes a Girl Must Carry On. Now, almost nobody knows this story except my wife. But I wrote this for her to follow the song Goodbye, which is her second hit after Those Were the Days. And Mary wanted to do it. I think she may get recorded to this day. But Alan Klein, who I grew up nearby, he was my neighbor in Riverdale in the Bronx. He said to me, listen, Fradkin, unless we publish that song, Mary's not going to record it. And I said, well, I can't let you publish it. MGM publishes it. He said, well, then she's not going to record it. And that was the politics going on at the time. And Lennon wanted Mary to record the song, and Paul didn't want her to record it because it wasn't his song. So that was just another one of those little things that happened along the way on my way to being a Beatle.
You know, Let It Be is about to come out and put what some people worry is a whitewash on that whole period and make it all happy with a smiley face. Do you think there's any validity to the fact that the original movie, since you saw John and Paul around that time, the original movie was purposely negative just for a narrative's sake, or?
No, I have to be cautious when I answer this. There are certain things I'm going to let Sir Paul reveal himself that he has that he may just choose to discuss when it comes out. I'm not at liberty to discuss it on his behalf, but there were things happening there that were more negative than positive. They were anxious to end the band because he wanted to, actually, Paul wanted to get out of the band to be able to do his own thing, particularly because they didn't want to perform and he wanted to. You can see his enthusiasm for doing that in the movie. Come on, guys, we just have to do this or do that. They didn't really want to do that anymore, and there was quite a lot of discussion in the soundtrack of the movie about whether or not they could play in the desert, or they could play in the theater, or they could play this way or that way. But they had to do something to end the movie. And so one of the reasons they got into that room in that studio was Twickenham is a very cold, empty room. It's very dank and cold, and it was the middle of winter. But they had to end the movie somehow, and I think the discussion revolved around how are we going to end this, and I guess they decided to be on the roof to do that. I think they also had to do it because they had to make a performance in the picture to honor their contract with United Artists that Brian Epstein had gotten for them. They had to do something or they would have been in breach of contract. At least that's what Derek told me at the time.
Wow. That's wild. I didn't, Les, man, it's such hardcore history that you got on that. That's wild.
Well, that was my life before Beatlemania. I was a session musician, a solo recording artist, and a record producer. I had produced 22 singles for Laurie Records and several for MGM. Other than Emmett Rhodes, who beat me to it by a few days, I was the first person to play every instrument on a record in an overdubbing mode, second only to him, for his album on Dunhill. I was the second one on the Yummies record I did, Patty Cake, where I played everything. Wow. And I think it's immortalized in Wikipedia. I'm one of the 7 all-time one-man bands mentioned there, along with Todd Rundgren and Paul and
Prince.
Yeah, I mean, poor Emmett, who's Emmett Rhodes stuff, which is unbelievable. He had the unfortunate timing to have his album come out just after McCartney released McCartney, another great album that was recorded all by one person.
But remember, everybody said Emmett Rhodes made the McCartney album McCartney should have made. And
yes, of course, because the difference is you listen to McCartney's album, it's great, it's raw, it's basic, and you've got some great tunes in there and stuff like that. But when you listen to what Emmett Rhodes put out, which is basically, you swear that it's such a polished record with one guy, you want to say to yourself, how can it have that sort of recording studio?
Not one guy, Mitch.
The other guy has everything else, you know.
No, it's not one guy. Kurt Bescher sang a lot of the harmonies on the record. He didn't take credit for it. And he also helped mix it with Keith Olsen, who later did Fleetwood Mac.
Yes, I mean, it was a much more polished production.
Emmett mentions I was trying to get Emmett's latest album on our label. My wife and I own a label and a publishing company that has
his stuff is great.
Humongous amounts of copyright in it. But I asked Emmett if he wanted to do the album, and at the time he was a little reluctant. But I asked him, why are you reluctant? And he said, I said, why did you lose your deal? He said, because I signed this dopey deal where I had to do 2 albums a year and tour, and that was impossible given the way he did the records, which was interesting because I learned that the hard way back then, the same time he did, but not knowing that was the reason he
I mean, Emmett Rhodes was so ingrained in me and with merry-go-round and stuff like that. I'll never forget when we first came to LA last Music Connection magazine, the ads in the back, he had an ad for his studio, recorded with Emmett Rhodes at his studio by the beach or whatever it was. I mean, so basically, but I always found it interesting that he was relegated to doing recordings, whereas this guy should have been performing someplace. But, you know, as you said, it works out a certain way.
Yeah, we've all been through ups and downs in our career. I mean,
yes, I know.
My wife Loretta said to me in 2003, this was after I did some Edison Lighthouse shows and some Beatlemania reunion shows and whatever. She said, look, you're not going to get an annuity sitting there with your Rickenbacker 12-string and your Sgt. Pepper suit. Get out there and do some music that your own, as you did as well. And so the first album I did was Reality the Rock Opera, and that song System Crash that's on that album has now reached 500,000 video views as of this morning.
That's phenomenal.
Hey,
17 years it took it because of the pandemic and because of the situation going on now in the U.S. and around the world. People, I guess, hear in the poetry in that song. And I played everything on the record and sang everything on it. Mostly out of expediency. Didn't want to have to sit there and say, Mitch, what do you think?
Yeah, or teach everybody how to do the stuff.
Or teach everybody the parts. Yes.
Wait, hold on. Your drummer is like Hakami Chinik over here. He's like, what time did you? I go, Justin, I'm in the middle of the show. What the heck? Yeah. Why is Ringo being a problem? We got wait. I'm gonna have to call Eric Singer on this guy. All right, go.
He knew everything last night.
Yeah, he's saying the link is not working.
Terrible.
Mitch, you alluded to this before when you said that John and Yoko said that we're suing you. What happened to the lawsuit that the Beatles made against you guys?
Well, the lawsuit was action for a while because they I mean, he was talking about the fact that they were the Apple lawyers that were constantly trying to stop the production of the show. We had the rights, the performance rights, and the song rights from ATV and Sam Trust to perform the stuff. And then we paid the royalties and all the other things. But it's funny, Ringo was on Phil Donahue and they asked him, you guys get paid for any of this stuff? He said, no, we don't see a dime. But it's not true because they got royalties all the time. But the lawsuit eventually took because that happens. They had one set of lawyers. This is an interesting story. I think Les may have been deposed as well. I don't remember. Larry Iser, the lawyer for them, the Beatles, actually had me meet him in a hotel around the corner from my house, my apartment then on 60th Street off Central Park West. No, 60th Street off between Park and Lex. And there was a hotel up the block, and I met him there. And my lawyer said he wants to talk to you about the Beatles stuff. And so we did. And he had his little handheld recorder. He put it down on the desk and said, "Do you mind if I record this?" I said, "No. Do you mind if I record this?" I put my recorder down on the table and proceeded to go over this stuff and all about the legalities and this. And I brought up the scrapbooks. So scrapbooks that I kept forever, and Les had scrapbooks as well. But I had these very ridiculous ones. I got the clipping services to send everything and prove that even though we didn't call ourselves John, Paul, George, Ringo. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, the four of us were instructed to call ourselves the bass player, the guitarist, or whatever it was, and interviews and stuff. But I also said to him, you're never going to be able to get a song, and he's here, I hear him. You're never going to get the press or anybody. The press, we may say it, and everybody that played Beatlemania over the years may say, I play George, I play Ringo, I play Paul, whatever it is. But the disclaimer is there. You're never going to get a hold of that. And I said, I have all these scrapbooks showing all these interviews. And he said to me, can I have the scrapbooks? I said, you can subpoena me and pay $500 for them. I'd be happy to. So eventually that law firm that was handling the case for the Beatlemania lawyers at the time, and I believe Edie and Eli Landau, who did the Beatlemania movie, they beat them. There was a piece of paper. I remember Steve and David calling me into the office at the time to show me this decision. And the Beatles had written a letter to them saying, we will be happy to settle this for $1 million cash and a continuing interest in all future productions. So I remember everybody jumping up and down in that office to the point where the floodgates were now open. We're in our 30s now. We could do the solo years if we wanted to. We could do that stuff. We could train kids to do Beatlemania and keep doing Beatlemania. Well, the lawyers that got that, even David Krebs and I just spoke about this last year. Steve handled a lot of the stuff with Beatlemania and David wasn't aware of it. The paperwork was there. He says to me, if it was only $1 million, why didn't Steve and I just take it out of our back pockets and pay the $1 million? Because the insurance company that hired the lawyers said, we're not paying any $1 million, fired the lawyers. The next thing you know, the Beatles won their injunction against the show, against any future productions. And none of us knew that's what happened. I wondered why we didn't go further on to do anything else, except that I remember seeing the court settlement. The lawyer and the judge said, you can't stop them from doing this production. And so all they wanted was $1 million continuing interest. And the insurance company fired the lawyers who didn't send everything over to the other set of lawyers who promptly lost the decision.
Mitch, one day off camera, I'll tell you the
Yeah.
real reason this happened, but not on
Okay.
camera. I'm not.
What the hell is that, Les?
Can't say
I
that.
don't know what it is because
Hold on.
there's legalities involved. For
I
us to
can't
disclose
tell you
things.
I'm sworn to
Yeah.
secrecy
What
Yeah.
the-
as far as on-camera revelation,
Wait, hold. Hey, Les.
but I know the reason.
Les,
Yeah.
how come you trying to go over here? You and Ringo. This is. See what you guys do to me. You tell
Morning,
me stories. You tell me stories, and then this guy over here. He's help. I've fallen. I can't get up. Ladies and gentlemen, Ringo's here. Justin McNeill. All drummers are the same. You and Eric Singer. Now I can't hear you. Just like Eric. What?
I was
Talk to me.
kidnapped by some
You were
people.
kidnapped?
They brought me over to the Bahamas, and these guys came and picked me up. And I just was.
Justin, guys, let me talk to Justin for a second. Justin, let me and you talk for a second.
Yeah,
you and Eric Singer know each other. You took lessons from Singer.
Yeah.
Did he teach you how to be a pain in the ass too? Because that guy's such a pain in the ass, that Eric Singer, and you're
yes,
like
he
doing
did.
this.
Yes,
Yeah, he did. He did. I'm gonna kill him. I just texted him. I go, you guys, because you took drum lessons with Eric, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet he spoke the whole time.
The first time I saw Eric was at the 1995 convention here in Miami, and we didn't really talk that much. You know, he was getting before they got on, he was at the gift shop looking for something. So I said, "Oh man, that's him." So then later on, he was doing a clinic at Sam Ash in Miami Lakes, and the reunion band was back. You know, so he wasn't in the band anymore.
Yeah.
And so I went to see a clinic with him, and
That's when he gave you time. He gave you time when he wasn't in a band. Okay.
So I was sitting in the first row, and I asked him, "How do you do that intro to Creatures of the Night?" And he saw it. So when the clinic was over, I asked him. I told him I was in Beatlemania. I used to go to high school with Paul, So I said, can I take drum lessons from you? Because, I'm impressed, So I told him I can fly for free because I was able to fly for free. So I don't think he took me seriously, though, because, like, going to go fly to California from Miami just to take a drum lesson, So he gave me his, like, business number. So I called him up a few times every week.
Eric gave you Eric has a business number.
Well, at that time, I don't know what he does now, but
and he has like 7 phones. The guy.
Okay,
Look at Eric over here. Look at him.
Yeah.
He's happy.
Lady Gaga. Yeah,
him and Lady Gaga. Look how happy he is.
Right.
It's the last time he touched a woman. All right.
So he saw that I was serious after a few weeks. He says, "Yeah, all right, we'll make a lesson for 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock." I says, "Okay." And I don't know if he thought I was really going to do it. So I got on the plane 8 or 9 in the morning. Takes 5 hours to get there. It's like 3 hours back when you get there. And took a taxi to his house. And then I see him standing by his porch like this.
Yeah.
He's probably thinking like, this asshole really actually showed up for I'm just going there for a drum lesson. So I was there. I took a 4-hour drum lesson. Great meeting him, getting to know him, and he told me the ups and downs of the career and all that stuff. But I told him I always felt I told him I always felt you're going to be, even though the tour was starting with the original guys, like someday you're going to be back with them. You'll see.
Yeah.
Because you can just feel it, because like Peter Criss is a great drummer, but he's like older in carpal tunnel, whatever else he's got going on. So I could see why they got back together. But I said, don't worry. I met him around the same time you did.
You made him feel good. He was really having a hard time, Eric Singer, because I think around that time he was.
I met him around the same time you did, 1997.
I was playing with him. That's how great his career was. I made Eric Singer because of me. Me and Gilby Clark. Yeah. I'm the guy.
I always felt he's going to be back in Kiss, and like 3-4 years later, he's with Kiss with the makeup for the next 20 years.
Yeah, look at Les. Les has undercover stories of the Beatles. He's not. I'm not allowed to talk any Kiss stories. Look, I'll pull one on you, Les. I can't talk. I got this great story.
Justin's not the only one with a Kiss story.
Wait, what's that?
My favorite Kiss story is I went over to Ace Frehley's house in Connecticut because Larry Russell knew him and I didn't. And Larry and I had written a song, "I Just Want Your Love," for Ace's solo album. I don't think it ended up on the album, but we recorded it. And that was really an interesting afternoon recording that. And Anton Fig played the drums, and Larry played the bass. I played rhythm guitar, and Ace played whatever he played.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he says, "Look, I can't pay you for this." I said, "Really?" He said, "But you can pick any guitar out of this bin you want."
Oh.
And he opened up drawers that looked like you would keep, tools in them, and each drawer had a guitar encased in foam. And so he gave me one of his not so important guitars, and that was my underground Ace.
That's still great. That's a great way to get paid.
I met Anton Fig once I work at the airport. I told him I'm like the Forrest Gump of the airport. I meet so many, you're like little things, like Slash walks by and he drops his hat. So here's your hat. And then later on I met him some other times. So, like little instances of famous people coming by. So I met like Meryl Streep 4 times, Al Pacino behind me, and
Al Pacino.
I have Steven Tyler photos too.
I met him. I met you through the years. I met so many. And when I first started working there, I was actually asking for autographs. And I would have to say that the only one who has more autographs than me is Vinny Gonzalez.
Vinny Gonzalez.
God! After a while, I stopped asking for autographs because it's not professional. I'm representing the airline. Oh man!
But how can you not? Vinny Gonzalez is a real. I mean, Vinny Gonzalez. You guys all know Vinny. Les, do you know Vinny Gonzalez?
He's one I don't know. No,
they made the movie King of Comedy, De Niro, at his house. They actually filmed in his basement, and Robert De Niro actually stayed with him. Vinny is a big autograph collector back in the day, before the TMZ, all the eBay things, and he was I guess you use the word stalking. He was sitting outside. Him and his buddy was sitting out De Niro's hotel. It was around the time he was doing Deer Hunter, and he had the script for King of Comedy, but he ended up becoming friends with Vinny and staying at Vinny's house to pick his mind, to get a fanatic. And the scene when De Niro's yelling, "Mom, I'm doing a show," in the basement. And that's in Vinny's basement. Vinny was the biggest Kiss collector. He was friends with Kiss. So he had all the original stuff from the early 70s. But anyway, Vinny was on my show. He has stories after stories after stories. So long story short, his favorite band is Kiss. And De Niro's at his house with an espresso on his couch with his arms back on the chair. And he goes, Bobby, you're going to have to go now. I got to go. Kiss is playing.
Mitch is on Gene's solo album. I know you weren't going to mention it, but didn't you write? You wrote how many songs for Gene, or with him?
Who, me?
Just frozen.
Yeah.
There he goes.
Oh, no, sorry. No, I didn't write. I wrote songs with him, but not during that period. We were in California at the time, on our way to Chicago to do Beatlemania there. The four of us were on our way to do it after the run in Century City. And I get the phone call from the press office, Carol Ross saying that Gene wanted to use, I think Les had already left and Justin had already left, but he wanted to have me and Joey sing. As he put it in the press, I couldn't get Lennon and McCartney, so I got the next best thing. He wanted to have us sing on the solo record. So we didn't write anything. I maybe arranged the background vocals and all the stuff that I ended up doing. There's photos of me and Joey and Eric Troyer. Eric Troyer is an amazing vocalist. He and Rory Dodd were on every damn Phil Ramone recording and all of the Meatloaf stuff. And Rory and Eric were part of the Blendos. Eric actually ended up being with Leslie, your old friends, the ELO guys, and John Regda managed that band when they came to the U.S. The orchestra, or whatever it was, the orchestra. It wasn't the ELO, it wasn't the Electric Light Orchestra. They called themselves the orchestra, and actually Bev Bettens was the drummer at the time. And they played Radio City Music Hall. But Eric was a great singer. He's in the studio with us as well. But eventually, it was just Gene and I did the backgrounds to those three songs: "See You Tonight," "Mr. Make Believe," and "Always Knew You Know Where to Hide." So I'd like to say I wrote one of those, but no, I did not.
Les, did you work with ELO? You knew the guys from ELO?
No, I didn't know the guys in ELO, but I do have an interesting autograph story. Well, two of them. One is we used to invite various celebrities to Century City. Once we got to LA, we became a very hot ticket item there. And all of these rock stars or various people wanted to come to the show. So I got a call from Al Hirsch. He says, the guys in the Byrds want to come to the show. I said, okay. We used to have, I think the whole group had 12 tickets a night. So for that night, I got Roger McGuinn and his date, who is now his wife, Camilla. Evidently, that was their very first date. He takes Camilla to go see Beatlemania. And I had always loved Roger McGuinn as a musician, even back to when he was Jim McGuinn. And afterwards, we went out to, I think it was Harry's Bar or somewhere like that. And he looks at me, he says, would you sign your autograph for me? I said, hey, what are you kidding? You want me to sign an autograph?
I was there with you. I was there with you. We had lunch with Roger McGuinn and Bruce Scary.
Right, that's right.
And Bruce Scary, they were just recording that My Sharona hadn't come out yet. And Roger McGuinn had a Beatlemania album. And he asked me for my autograph. I said, ooh, that's
that's good. Did he sign it on one of
those?
those?
No, it was the album. The cast.
It was on the album.
Yeah.
Mitch, you remember the Mike Nesmith thing when Mike and his family came to see us?
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
And he came to the theater, and afterwards he looked at me and he said,
I think I remember now. Okay.
Y'all didn't know each other before this, did you? And I said, how could you tell? He said, I know something about made-up bands.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. We met
I remember. People. Les, I keep meaning to tell you that I became friends with Christian, Mike's son, and Evan. When I went to go see the Mike and Mickey show 2 years ago down in LA, maybe 3 years ago, I can't remember now. We're backstage, and Christian says, "Do you remember when we first met you?" And I met his brother had come to see me at Sam Ash too, because they all came in as little kids to see the show with Mike. And it was through your doing. It was really, really great. So Christian says, I'll bet you don't remember that I know exactly when I met you. He remembers everything. He says, tell Les Fradkin I remember everything. He's a very nice guy, very great musician. But he remembers one of the best pictures I remember is you had Mick Fleetwood come in.
Oh, yeah.
And he posed for a picture with us on the donut. And remember, Justin had appeared in the paper. But Mick is standing behind us. He's also kneeling down about 2 feet because he was a giant. just so he could have his head in the photo with us. It was hysterical.
He came 2 days in a row to see us, and on the second time out, we were on stage. The show was over, but we're on stage, and he said the biggest compliment I ever got. He said I'm the closest sounding to Ringo that he's heard, but I had a different technique than the other Beatle drummers. There was like 10 Beatle drummers, right? So Ringo is a left-handed drummer, and he plays on a right-handed set, so he had his own style just from that. So I'm a right-handed player. I would use my medium ride cymbal, and I put rivets on it, so it sounds like that sound that I used to get on the hi-hat. But I would use that on my right hand most of the time. And in the early times when the real Beatles played, he used to have a sizzle cymbal on the left-hand side instead of the right, and he would favor that because he's really a lefty. So I incorporated that to the way, because I'm a righty. I'm the only one that did that. The other drummer said, "Hey, he never used a sizzle." I said, yes, he did, but he used it on the left hand. But I'm using it on the right, so because I'm a righty. Yeah. And that sound, for me, I loved it because when we do the songs and the songs end, and you still have that glaze coming over, it's like a dream effect, you know. I'm the only one that did that. The drummer did that. But I he didn't really do it that way. He did it the other way. But I did it on the right hand side. It's like that dream. The song's over, and you still get that. That was me. That was me. Only me.
Only you.
Hear it.
That clicking is back from yesterday, guys.
Yeah, that click is back. Hold on, Brooklyn. But my Brooklyn is here too. Hey, you know. Hold on, Corey. Let me sign myself out for a second. Take the interview for 1 second.
Oh, yeah. Corey, when did this conversation start? At 8 o'clock?
Because
I was here since
8:20.
Yeah,
40 years ago.
I was here since 8:15, waiting to get in. I'm sorry, guys. I was here, but I wasn't in. I don't know why, so I had to do it over again. But I've been here since 8:15.
You have to speak to the manager, Justin.
Staring at myself on this way since 8:15. But anyway, so Corey, you're a Kiss fan, right? Are you who's the one that said McVeigh? Mike McVeigh? He's
the crazy Kiss fan.
You're a Kiss fan, right? I got something for you.
What you got?
Okay. Let me go get it.
Cool.
Oh, you're gonna get it. Good. Yeah.
He was the clicking.
Yeah, remember yesterday we figured that out last night.
Anyway,
That's funny.
So here he comes.
I used to play in a Kiss tribute band in Florida.
Oh,
Here's my Love Gun costume. Can you see it?
Nice. Very cool. Yeah.
And
Look at you.
I don't have it.
Very cool. Oh wow, he's got everything.
All right, singer, watch yourself. You're out of the band.
Is there a call for you guys to ever reunite? I mean, do you get booking requests or anything like that?
Oh, you got the boots too. That's badass.
Oh my God. We've been asked various times to reunite and stuff like that. The last time was on the 50th anniversary, and Charles Rosenet, who does his Beatle conventions up in the Northeast, actually posed the thing. We went through all the logistics to try to do it and stuff like that, but it would take too much time for us to rehearse again and do that. It just wasn't feasible. Come and play is great, but having not played together in 30 some odd, all together in 30 some odd years is hard to just, okay, let's get up and play. So Joe declined at the time. We all just couldn't get it together.
My thought on this is this: the Beatles never did it together again for whatever the reason.
That's one of the reasons they gave that it would be too much of a hassle.
So maybe that's as good a reason as any for us not to have done it. But I've begun to adopt the feeling that no matter what we would do, however good we would be, we would still be micro-judged against what we had done then.
Yeah, totally.
It's a big disadvantage, I think.
Justin, that was cool. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, I didn't have my mic on. I used to play in some tribute bands in Florida. As Paul would say, when a song isn't that good and he stops the song and he goes like this. Well, the bands I play with, we get gigs though because of the costumes. you know.
Mitch, I wanted to ask you about your I mean, I know all about it, but I don't think people do. Your second career as the man at the China Club. Every Monday night, I would go in there, and there would be celebrities that you would introduce. I mean, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. Like left to right, all you see is celebrities, and everybody knows you because you booked the whole.
It's funny. My second part of the career. I mean, I had my Kiss royalties. I think that I had my friendship with them as well. I had all this stuff. I mean, I also was doing Beatles shows. It was very funny. I think while I was doing my China Club 10 years, just hanging out. What do they used to call me? The bartenders called me the fourth owner and the fifth Beatle. But I knew you're right. I knew everybody. People would walk by and go, hi, Mitch. Hi, Mitch. Hi, Mitch. Eddie Murphy. It's funny. Julian Lennon and when I would hang out. I remember once Eddie invited Julian and I over to his table and asked if we wanted to go back to his place in New Jersey. And we just looked at each other and no, that's okay. But I'd sit with Jimmy Page. I'd sit with all these people. And yeah, that's when I'd see you. But to me, these were just normal sort of people. I mean, it's funny. We had these certain things where people would say, "What'd you do last night?" And how do you tell people in your life? Well, I was sitting at a table with Al Pacino and so, whatever it was, and they go like, "Get the fuck out of here." So I mean, and so you sometimes downplay it. You say you went home and watched TV because you just sound like you're so full of stuff.
But those jams were so incredible, Brian. Man,
yeah, the jams were on the
Idol?
Wednesdays actually when they first did that. I mean, I remember. Those jams were great. In the beginning, we got almost everybody up on the stage. As a matter of fact, for me, it was like music -1. I thought of, if you remember the Lloyd Thaxton show, where he used to sing to those recordings and stuff like that. He would be, to me, I became the host and the guy who sang if the real guys didn't show up. So the band would be all these incredible musicians, and then I'm singing. There's photos of me singing All Right Now with my background singers of Klaus Meine, Paul Stanley, and Paul Young. I put these shows together where I did Mick Jones parts in Foreigner because he wasn't there. But Lou Gramm didn't make it, so Joe Lynn Turner sang and played instead. So there was a lot of fun. There was one night when I came back, Corey. I know Billy Idol came. He never got up on stage. I had come back from California, and the jams were getting a little bit out of hand. It was like everybody's cousin, but the real guys wouldn't get up. Mitch Mitchell got up and did one song. Okay, that's enough. Thanks so much for coming in, Mitch. And so-and-so's cousin from the Bronx would be the next drummer. So it was being overrun with, the whole event started with who wants to get up and play. No pressure. But I remember that it was that sort of thing. When I came back to California, I said, would you help run the jams again? I said, this is out of control, and let me show you how. The band on stage isn't going to let the celebrities up there. I promptly called Steve Stevens, said, come on down. I'll supply whatever you want, drinks, whatever. He says, okay, I'll bring Billy. Billy came down. He was wearing his glasses and promptly started smoking pot at the table. But I said to the guys who owned the place, watch, they're not going to get on stage. They went up. Their names were put on the clipboard. 4 hours went by, never got called to the stage ever. I said, I need you guys to come in so I can prove my point. This is not being run the way it should be. You know, the best part about my job was I eventually just turned into the guy who introduced everybody because everybody started showing up. I didn't need to play. I didn't need to sing. I didn't need to do this. It's like I did my job so well, I'm out of a job. So those were the fun days of running those jams. And people say, why don't you sing? I said, look who's here. What do I got to sing for? You know, the best would be when they would call me up and say, you sing. We'll back you up. You know, so
yeah.
So that was fun. A lot of fun.
I found the culprit. It's Les. Les is doing the popping, everybody. I had to mute Les.
Oh.
This is real TV. Yes,
Stefan, I got a picture of me with Paul Stanley holding up the high school yearbook.
Yeah, let's see that.
Oh yeah.
I could up you one on that one, I think. Hold on. You want
I love that.
Watch this one. Huh? Look at that. You want professional? Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's there.
That's the high school.
Hey, I have another one here too. That was the same place. He came 2 days to see us at the FM station in North Hollywood. I don't know if that's still there anymore.
No,
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, and that was cool.
FM station, Mitch. That was actually that was the Palladinos as well, right? I believe.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
We did a show there, and Justin's right. He brought that stuff because he knew Paul was coming. I told him he was coming. Paul came Paul came with Fleur Thiermeyer. Fleur is actually
Yeah,
the costume designer. Did all the shows, all the band's costumes in the '80s. And she actually ended up having a child with Mike Tramp from White Lion. I saw her recently a few years ago. And she came by. She was Billy Squire's girlfriend. She's the one who was hysterical, telling him, "You cannot be dressed up and do that Rock Me Tonight video like that. These guys, your managers are actually gay, and they love you. They love you, and you're going to go walking around doing Rock Me Tonight, and your career is going to go crazy."
Well,
and she was so hysterical. The guy said to her, "Who are you going to believe, us or this hysterical woman?" And sure enough,
I can't tell that story.
Hold on. I don't know if this is true. I don't know. I don't know if this is true.
I know the story. Yeah.
I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's true. You could pull.
Les has a story. Corey has a story. Off camera.
Okay, everybody has a story.
Off camera.
Les is popping, but you know what? Really quick. Anybody want to do a live at 5 with us? You guys? Anybody want to come back, Mitch? Because 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll do it.
You guys want to come? Anybody?
I'll try.
I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid to watch TV for the last 2 months. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna do a live at 5, and we're gonna come back because there's so much.
Okay.
There's so much more to do. 9:30. I think we do a recap, but there's so many stories. But really quick,
Michael, I don't know if you're going to be there at 5, we should come back and do it because we never told them, Justin, about what Kiss put us through in rehearsals.
Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
When they came in, they spent that it's one of the greatest stories ever of how we used to rehearse at SIR. People would come in, Roberta Flack, Carly Simon, and we'd sing this song. We had every single Beatles song we learned because we didn't know what was going to be in the show at the time. We even learned Mary Jane Had a Pain at the Party. We heard all these demos.
Really?
So with Kiss is rehearsing for a tour in 1977. 76 because we're still in rehearsals. Early 77. And they're going to play the Garden.
I did not know. I did not know that Paul Stanley, the guy I went to high school with, was in Kiss. I didn't know that. They were in Studio B, we're in Studio A, and they kept coming in to look at us.
Well, Gene and Paul ended up taking up a residency in front of us for 4 hours, making us sing every damn song.
Look how proud you are. Look at you.
To the point where you want to hear everything else, you had no voice. So, Michael, I got this story. It's great because it involves Peter. It involves Ace, who never came in the room, but who told me later on, I get to the rehearsal and there's food and everything set up, but there's no band. Where is everybody? It's funny as hell.
We're gonna have a lot of good stories. This will be live at 5, and we'll talk about Corey and Billy Squire. Yeah, Corey. We're gonna talk about your situation with Squire. Everything at live at 5. You know what? This is the original Broadway cast, Beatlemania, right here.
Great
it's a favorite of mine. Man,
Joe Pecorino sends his regards. Everybody, he couldn't make it, but so Joe, here's to you. We couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, Joe, definitely, Joe, and we'll get you on here. But this is the original. This is the original.
You guys are all, even though we hardly ever see each other, soul brothers.
Beautiful.
Forever.
Yeah,
forever.
Definitely.
Look at this.
Definitely, you got it.
You see?
All right, guys, I'll see you at 5.
Hey, guys, really quick. Look, I want to show you something over here, really quick. This is so cool. I would stare at this. Who's who in the cast? And you know what I noticed here? Everybody was single. Is how true is that? Was everybody really single on this whole thing?
Yeah, we were. At the time, we didn't get married till after the show was running, so we were single. We were all single. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Even Les was single.
This is great. Okay, live at 5. The guys will be back. I love you guys for doing this. Oive, look at you. You can't wait. The Kiss story.
Thanks, guys. Corey,
you're thrilled.
Good talking to you. This is good. We're getting more done in recent times.
We're having a good time.
The entire time we knew each other. It's great. I love it.
We're having a good
The
time.
same link now, right? It's the same link.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, there's a lot of more hidden stories. Everybody wave goodbye. We're out of here. We'll see you at 5.
Hello,
Live at 5.
everybody.
Bye, buddy.
Hope you had a good time. See you later. Bye.